It is the front page Saturday Town Hall edition. So pleased to have you here with us. Our topic today, does my vote even matter? And being joined now by the Executive Director of California Common Cause and National Redistricting Director. She has led Common Cause in championing election and redistricting reforms and government sunshine accountability laws and much, much more. Kathay Feng, welcome to the front page.
Thanks so much, and good morning, Dominique.
Good morning. I always learn something when you come on. And the conversation about whether or not our vote matters really does intersect with the conversation about redistricting, which a lot of us sort of, kind of tune out when we hear that. And you hear because it's kind of not sexy, right? It's like
not
redistricting.
Sexy, but it matters.
It matters. And explain what that is and why, the work that you do. Obviously, you wouldn't be doing the work you do if you thought that our votes don't matter.
Mm-hmm. Around the country, there are so many seats that are locked in for one party or another, are locked in for a specific incumbent, because back in 2011, the party that was in power drew the lines, the district lines, in a way where their party could not lose. So in states like North Carolina, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, we've been fighting to make sure that those lines are changed in the courts or changed by the people through the initiative process so that people have a fair chance of running and winning, and more importantly, that communities that are now coming to the polls have a chance to vote for a candidate and really have their vote matter, right? We're starting to see some of those changes because of some good court decisions. We're starting to see some of those changes because people voted in redistricting reforms like what California did. And when that happens, we'll have some real races between people who have a lot of battle of ideas, and hopefully they'll be appealing to people in a way that builds broader and broader voter engagement.
So, talk to me about, I think one of the reasons people think that their vote doesn't count is the Electoral College. And what we saw in 2016, where Hillary Clinton was able to win the popular vote but lose the election.
Yeah, the Electoral College. This is one of those vestiges of things that, have stuck around since the beginning of our country's founding, right? And really the way that it got adopted in the first place was because there was a grand compromise between states that had a lot of people, but also states that wanted to have more power. And it was a power play by a lot of the southern states to have something called the Electoral College, that you vote, regular people vote, but at least for presidential elections, it's not for any other election but president, you're actually voting for a group of people who then represent your vote and cast a ballot for the candidate that state decides is going to be cast for. So every state has its own rules for how to decide who the final candidates will be that the Electoral College members vote for. Honestly, until recently, I had a hard time figuring out who these people even were, and it is frustrating because we've seen at least in recent memory, two different elections where the national popular vote went one way for one candidate, but the Electoral College went for another. And what it does is it gives extra weight to smaller states or states that may have a split in their voter electorate, but all they need is to have one more person cross over to the other side, and all the votes go towards that party. So it ends up being one where a state like Michigan that's sort of split half and half between Democrats and Republicans, or North Carolina, half and half, or Wisconsin. We all remember those stories, right, in 2016. And all you need is a handful of votes to swing every single electoral vote to one party. That's where it's problematic, because it means that millions of people in 2016, over 3 million people, essentially their votes didn't count.
That's because they lived in a state where their electoral votes went to the winner, even though
the person who didn't get the national popular vote. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really, it is frustrating. And a lot of people ask, what would it take to get rid of that? And we're talking about amending the U.S. Constitution, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, so I think that, if we want to amend the Constitution, it takes an act of Congress and it takes a supermajority, right? It takes a certain number of states passing and ratifying that act of Congress, and then it takes going back to the Congress and getting it confirmed. It's not impossible. We've done it before. It is how we gave women the vote. It's how we gave young people the vote, right? These are not things that are impossible, but it does take will. And one of the things I will say, I'm so excited that your next guest is going to be Yellow Payne. He talks about knowing that it is important not just to vote for president, but for every part of our government. Because if you want that constitutional amendment to happen, you need to make sure that you're casting a ballot for people who are in Congress. You need to make sure that you're casting a ballot for people who are judges. Because every branch of our government matters when it comes to trying to pass a constitutional amendment.
Right. And for Latifah, who called and asked if I can go over the judges again, we're not going to do that today, but we will have that up at kjlhradio.com, Radio Free Live. Again, we'll have it up there next week. We did the show, and we're going to keep talking about it on the front page. Where, we talk about, down ballot, right? Which means all of those school boards and judges, the people that are actually going to affect us probably more than president. And now we see, ballot boxes being carried away and people worried about what's happening with the U.S. Post Office because the president is, tampering with it. What do you say to people who are worried about their vote not counting? I mean, one of the things that Common Cause does is election protection. Yes,
that's right. So if you see anything that is suspicious, that is wrong, give us a call. We've got a local line, 213-623-1216, or you can call the national line, that's 1-866-OUR-VOTE. And there are people who are taking those phone calls from around the country, right? Because we know that a lot of states actually have already started voting. We've seen in L.A. some cheap tricks, right? So people who put out ballot boxes that were not real ballot boxes, but fake ones, just to try to collect people's ballots. But what we do know is that in California, I would say I feel very confident that our election administrators, the people who run the elections, their heart and soul is in this. And they want to protect votes. They want to make sure everything counts. And so they are really, even in this time of COVID, passing laws and adopting policies that protect voters. So if you see something where there's an oddball ballot box that pops up that doesn't look real, right? The real one in Los Angeles is yellow and blue. I don't want to offend any of your listeners, but UCLA colors, right? Anybody out there who's rooting for the other school, I'm sorry about that. That was just the choice that they chose, poppy yellow, okay? And then the other thing is that people will receive ballots in the mail. And those ballots that you receive in the mail, even if you didn't request it this year because of COVID, we're just trying to make sure that everybody has their ballot and you don't have to face the hard choice of, do I put my health in jeopardy just to vote in person? If you want to vote in person, the great news is there are a number of choices. Starting on October 24th, LA County is going to be opening up a lot of locations, and you can just Google LA County and locator or LA Vote locator, and you'll find the closest ones. Some of the ones that I'm excited about include Dodger Stadium, right? Bethel AME on Western, LA Forum, and then a lot of parks have them. You're also going to find those beautiful poppy yellow and blue boxes in your parks and your libraries. And I bet you a lot of people already see them, because I went out for a walk and I saw one of those boxes and I was like, I'm so excited. I can't wait. You probably have gotten your ballot in the mail. And so now's the time to start thinking about it. There's a long list of propositions, a long list of local races. DA is up, huge race. LA City Council, there's a number of races. Supervisors, Wesson versus Mitchell, big race, right? Even in the congressional district, 43rd, you've got Maxine Waters and Joe Collins. So there are some hot races that people should be paying attention to, but do not forget the judges, and don't forget the proposition.
Yeah, there's a lot of important propositions, and we've been talking about it, but we're going to keep talking about it. You're right, because people are already voting. I read 1.5 million Californians have already voted. Some putting them in the mailbox real early, to try to make sure they have enough time. But those voting boxes, the yellow and blue ones that you're talking about, those are secure, right? We don't have to worry about
those are the real deal. They're bolted to the ground. They have a slot that doesn't make it easy for anybody to stick a hand in or something like that. They can't do anything to it. They're actually designed so that you can't break in. If you're going to try to, the fake ones look like you got them at Home Depot. The real ones are these gigantic things that you have to run over with an 18-wheeler, if you wanted to do something to them. So they really are. They're indestructible. Mostly, I'm not going to say, you could have an asteroid come from outer space, but they're pretty much indestructible, and they look like the real thing because they have all the different languages on them. It looks like they're official.
Say the local number for the Common Cause Election Protection Line again.
Sure. 213-623-1216. And we'll be there answering the phone calls. Right now it's light because most people are, they're just figuring out how to mark their ballot, but especially the weekend right before Election Day. I know folks wait until that moment. I do. And so the weekend right before Election Day, we expect the uptick, and that's when we'll be ready. And we'll have poll monitors. We have some 900 people who have signed up to volunteer. And if there's something going on, right, then we will send a poll monitor out and stay at that polling location all day if need be to make sure that every voter has their ballot counted and that there aren't any people out there trying to intimidate voters. We saw in Virginia on the first day of voting a bunch of people who were waving flags for a particular presidential candidate, and that's okay. What you're not allowed to do is block the path of voters or try to intimidate them, and that's where they cross the line. And what I'll say is that it is time for, all these people who claim that they are law and order, it's time for regular voters, listeners of KJLA, to say, if you want law and order, let's protect the vote. Let's make sure that the laws that are put in place in California to protect voters are well enforced. And that means that the eyes and ears of neighbors, that we protect that vote by making sure that people can't be intimidated, people can't be turned away. And if we can assist, that we will if possible.
Right. So two things I want to get in. First of all, I thought it was illegal to electioneer near a polling place. I thought you weren't allowed.
You can't. Yes. You can electioneer outside of 100 feet of a polling place. So, let's say you've got a polling place at a library. You could stand, 100 feet outside of the entrance and electioneer. What you can't do is you can't intimidate or block the walkway, which is exactly what these people are doing. They believe that the law does not apply to them, and so they will do anything to try to scare away voters. And what I'll say is, they can't come in. And so the other thing is that if you go in to vote and you see someone wearing a T-shirt or a button or trying to cause a ruckus inside a vote center, absolutely call the whistle on them.
Interesting. And then the other thing is, we have to worry about how we process our vote. The tracking, you find it pretty reliable?
Yeah, what's neat is that the Secretary of State has set up a new system to track ballots. I think it's called Where's My Ballot? And everybody has got that information when you got mailed your ballot. It says, Where's my ballot? And you can go on and you can track it. You can watch exactly where it is. What I'll say is that for those hundreds of thousands of people who've already mailed their ballot in, first of all, thank you and congratulations. The counties have already started processing, just comparing the signatures to what they have on file. And the numbers that are coming back are amazing. 98% are already, they're in the yes pile and they're ready to be opened on Election Day and start to be counted, right? So that's great news. And you can track your ballot and see, okay, here's where it is. Somebody's already taken a look at it. It's already been cleared. It's ready to be counted. It won't be run through the machine until Election Day. Because we want to be sure that we're kind of not skewing the election results in any way, but you can see exactly what's happening with your ballot. And if there's a problem, here's the other good thing in LA and in California generally. If there's a problem, like you didn't sign it, you forgot to sign it, right? Or there's something that's missing, or maybe, you spilled coffee and you smudged it so it can't be read, right? LA County allows you to cure your ballot even after Election Day. So you mailed it in or you turned it in. It was a mess, right? And somebody will give you a call, or they'll try to contact you. And there's a solid several weeks where the county will try to make sure if it's something that's curable, like a signature on a ballot or on the outside envelope, they'll absolutely try to help make sure that voter has a chance to cure it and then count it, because their goal is to make sure that we get 100%. If you're not sure and you just feel like you want the assistance, we do have these vote centers. And county has done a lot to try to make sure that they're choosing vote centers that are large so that there's spaciousness, right? Large so that we keep everybody as safe as possible. Please remember, if you vote in person, bring that mask, wear it. If you can find the thing that was mailed to you, the ballot that was mailed to you, bring that. It just makes life a whole lot easier. Maybe you voted it already and you know exactly how you want to vote, but you just like the assurance of walking it into a polling location, right, a vote center. That's okay too. You get to skip the line, and maybe you want to go someplace famous like the Forum or Staples Center or Dodger Stadium and make it into a fun trip for the family. Drop off your ballot. You don't have to get in line, but you can sort of see. It's our own little staycation in this time of COVID. So I would just say, for families that are looking and itching for something to do, make voting into something that's fun.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I also think, when we talk about our vote not counting, I feel like what some politicians, well, I'll say our president is doing right now, where he's saying that the election is going to be rigged and everybody's cheating and I won't give up my spot unless I don't think it's rigged, is meant to make us think that our votes don't count and in some ways stop us from voting, right? As are those long lines at the polls and such.
That's right. That's right. I think that, he would love nothing better to have an excuse after Election Day to explain why he didn't have the most votes. And I think what matters is that in this country, we still have a chance to save our democracy. And that means both that we participate, but also after Election Day that we keep participating, right? I think that it matters when we all stand up together. And I think that there are people of good conscience in this country who are finally saying, what matters more than any one person's ego or any one person winning is making sure that this country believes in our institutions and that they really reflect the will of the people. So what I'll say is it is absolutely important. Don't think that it's just about the presidential election, although that is very, very important. Please make an effort, because there are so many things on the ballot this time for Los Angeles voters to vote on. Your DA, your county supervisor, your city council member, judges. And as I said, the propositions, there are so many things that would expand the vote for young people, for people who have served time. There are things that would increase penalties for people who've been convicted of a crime, or things that could make it easier for you to stay at home if you're waiting for your trial date. If you pay attention to those propositions this time, rent control, split roll, parole.
Yes, yeah.
Huge numbers of things.
Yeah, important stuff. Kathay Feng, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for the work that you're doing with Common Cause.
Thank you so much. If somebody wants to volunteer, they still can. We've got a website, protectthevote.net. If you want to volunteer to be a poll monitor or help out in any way, protectthevote.net. We encourage everybody to get out there and vote, and to make sure that your neighbors and your loved ones vote safely.
Thanks so much. Yellow Pain is next. We're taking your phone calls, 520-KJLH. Add your area code. It's radio free, 102.3 KJLH.